the man with the red face. A tall human-shaped figure marked by an unnaturally vivid red face. This entity usually appears standing in streets, doorways, or empty intersections, doing absolutely nothing except watching. It doesn't chase people and it doesn't announce itself. It just stands there, creating the kind of quiet discomfort that makes you question whether you're actually alone. What makes it different from more aggressive urban monsters is restraint. The fear comes from presence, not action. It represents the idea that something can occupy human spaces without needing to interact, turning normal sidewalks and hallways into places that feel observed. The Watchers. The Watchers aren't a single creature, but a recurring type of tall, shadowed figures seen near buildings, rooftops, windows, and distant corners of urban environments. Their defining trait is surveillance. They appear positioned where people live or travel, silently monitoring movement below. They matter because they introduce a broader concept into the universe. Some entities don't hunt, they study. Cities become observation zones, and humans become background activity, reinforcing the feeling that urban life is happening under constant, unseen supervision. The Forgotten Baby. This creature appears as a massive, malformed, infant-like entity abandoned in industrial zones, alleys, or neglected structures. Its design plays on distorted innocence, mixing vulnerability with overwhelming scale. The Forgotten Baby reflects themes of neglect and abandonment tied directly to urban decay, suggesting that something monstrous has grown from what society left behind. It stands out because it doesn't feel like a predator by nature. It feels like the result of something going terribly wrong. Highway worm. Highway worm inhabits major roadways and stretches of open pavement, often emerging beneath highways or crawling alongside long, empty routes. It transforms transit infrastructure into a feeding ground, targeting vehicles or isolated travelers. This monster matters because it weaponizes distance. Highways are meant to connect cities, but highway worm turns them into exposure zones where escape routes disappear and help is hours away. The subway creature. Living within underground transit systems, this entity occupies tunnels, platforms, and forgotten service corridors. It preys on commuters and late-night travelers, using darkness and confined spaces to its advantage. Unlike outdoor giants, the subway creature thrives on claustrophobia. It represents fear of enclosed public transport, where exits are limited and visibility is poor, turning routine commutes into survival scenarios. The Train Eater. The Train Eater targets full-size trains, attaching itself to rail cars or tracks and consuming entire sections of transit systems along with their passengers. Its scale places it between infrastructure monster and mobile disaster. What makes it important is its relationship to mass transportation. It doesn't stalk individuals, it interrupts systems, erasing dozens of people at once and leaving behind broken routes and silent stations. The Extra Slide. This entity manifests as an additional playground slide that appears overnight in parks or abandoned recreational areas. Children who use it are pulled into a hidden space and never return. The horror comes from subtlety. Nothing about it looks immediately dangerous. It blends into environments meant for safety and play. The Extra Slide highlights how urban monsters don't always look monstrous, sometimes disguising themselves as harmless additions to familiar spaces. The Sewer Dweller. Hidden beneath city streets, the sewer dweller moves through drainage systems and underground channels, occasionally surfacing through manholes or flooded passages. It exists entirely below public awareness, feeding on anything that falls into its territory. This creature represents what cities bury and forget. It thrives in waste and darkness, reinforcing the idea that beneath clean sidewalks and buildings lies something alive and waiting. The parking garage thing. Found lurking in multi-level parking structures, this creature uses concrete pillars, shadows, and echoing spaces to ambush isolated people. Parking garages are transitional areas, neither fully public nor private, and the monster exploits that vulnerability. It matters because it turns a mundane part of urban life into a danger zone, showing how even short walks to a car can become encounters with something hostile. The Building Face Entities. These entities appear as massive faces embedded into apartment blocks, office buildings, or abandoned structures, as if architecture itself has grown expressions. Sometimes they watch, sometimes they distort, sometimes they simply exist, frozen into walls. They matter because they erase the boundary between monster and environment. Buildings stop being shelters and become participants, suggesting that cities themselves may be alive in ways people don't understand. Mall, hospital, and transit-specific anomalies. These are scattered entities tied to enclosed public spaces like shopping malls, medical facilities, bus terminals, and train stations. Some take humanoid forms, others are environmental distortions. All of them share one trait: they inhabit places designed for crowds, safety, and routine. Their role is to corrupt familiar institutions, turning everyday errands and appointments into encounters with something wrong. These anomalies complete the urban monster category by showing that no shared space is exempt, and that the most dangerous creatures are often waiting exactly where people feel most normal. Big Charlie. A towering humanoid giant often seen looming over rooftops and city blocks, Big Charlie represents raw urban-scale horror. Unlike indoor predators that rely on tight spaces, Big Charlie exists to dominate entire neighborhoods at once. It appears in populated areas, standing tall among buildings as if it belongs there, reducing human structures to background props. What makes Big Charlie different is visibility. It doesn't hide underground or inside abandoned spaces. It stands openly in city environments, turning streets into observation zones and skylines into warning signs. Big Charlie matters because it introduces the idea that some urban monsters aren't lurking threats. They are walking disasters, too large to escape and too obvious to ignore. 20th Century Boy. This entity manifests as a massive humanoid figure tied to broadcast imagery and large-scale destruction, often associated with collapsing cities and distorted media signals. It doesn't behave like a traditional monster. Instead, it moves slowly through urban environments while entire regions fall apart around it, as if reality itself is malfunctioning in its presence. 20th Century Boy represents technological apocalypse rather than physical hunting. Its importance comes from scope. Where other creatures target individuals or buildings, this one consumes eras. It reflects fears about mass communication, nuclear age destruction, and how modern civilization could unravel all at once without anyone truly stopping it. The Wandering Faith. Appearing as a colossal, statue-like figure walking silently through cities, the Wandering Faith carries strong religious imagery and ceremonial posture. It doesn't attack directly. It travels through urban centers like a moving monument surrounded by an atmosphere of inevitability. People don't flee from it as much as they freeze, unsure whether they're witnessing judgment, prophecy, or something entirely alien. What makes the Wandering Faith unique is symbolism. It turns city streets into pilgrimage paths and buildings into silent witnesses. This entity matters because it introduces spiritual dread into urban horror, suggesting that some monsters aren't predators at all, but manifestations of belief, consequence, and irreversible change.